19th Street.
Steve Henson, now a part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor. Now, the full staff has been announced. Last week, to close out the week, Tweety Carter, the great Baylor legend, he joined us. Steve Henson joins us, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. I did not realize this, and I'm telling you, man, the reaction to you being hired on Scott Drew's staff from a lot of people that I know that aren't a part of Baylor, you were a decathlete, you're a single-digit golfer, you might have been the greatest athlete ever to come out of Kansas or among the legends. Is this all right, Steve?
Man, it all sounds incredible. I don't know if any of that's true. The decathlete part, that's true. I do like to play golf. That part's true. But, yeah, the rest, that'd be a reach for that third one there for sure.
By the way, this segment was Steve Henson, now part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, brought to you by Richard Carr, Buick GMC, and the Baylor Bear Hotline. So what was the conversation like with Coach Drew when he was looking to replace some of those that left for really good opportunities around the country?
Well, it was just interesting how it all unfolded. You know, I made a call into him, obviously known him for a long time and had so much respect for him. You know, we went head to head for all those years when I was at Oklahoma. I was at Oklahoma for 5 seasons. So we went head to head, saw him on the road recruiting, him and his staff, and just really respected the way, you know, they run their program here. You know, it's just an elite culture. You know, we were proud of our culture at Oklahoma and had tons of respect for the way Coach Drew and his staff did things. So the initial conversation, just kind of casual talk. We talked quite a while, one-on-one on the phone right after all that other nonsense settled down, where he told everybody he wanted to stay in Baylor forever. That was a big deal. You know, that was a big deal. Because I had talked to him just briefly before the Final Four, and was hoping to talk to him again right after the Final Four. And then obviously all that other stuff was going on. So once that died down, we got back on the phone and visited some more. And I was just honored and excited that we were having those conversations. And then we just talked a few more times, got on the Zoom with the staff, and just a lot of things lined up. A lot of things made a lot of sense. And, you know, hopefully he had enough respect for me and where I'd been and the way we had done things. Certainly I had a ton of respect for what's going on over here in Waco with the Baylor program.
Coach, obviously you are a tremendously positive person, and you have to be to even probably interview with Coach Drew. Do you now feel like you have to raise your level of positivity?
You know what? You're right on. You are right on point. You got to raise your positivity. You got to raise your energy. He just exudes it. I mean, I knew that about him, but man, just getting on the phone with him a couple times and then getting on a Zoom with him and then meeting with him in person. Yeah, it's amazing, his energy level. He goes and goes and goes, and his staff, they do a great job of working together. Everybody chips in. It's just like a beehive around this office. I've only been here a couple of days, but it's amazing watching this group of coaches operate. Several new guys, I know, as you mentioned, and a couple guys getting promoted from within. But man, these guys are hustling and working, and it's an exciting place. You got to keep up. You got to keep up because they're ripping and running.
You also work for a guy that is known for being incredible, class act, just a great human being, in Lon Kruger. How much did you learn from him, and how much can you compare kind of the personalities?
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, Coach Kruger, I played for Coach Kruger. I signed to play for him at K-State, and then when my playing days were over, I joined his staff and just tried to soak it in, you know. Not only the X's and O's, Coach Kruger was a great tactician, but just the way he treated people every single day, the way he treated players, people in the community, that really made a big impact on me. He was doing the same things when I was a player, but I didn't notice those as much. When I started working for him, it just made a bigger impact. And then get over here, and Coach Drew is all about culture. They're different, and, you know, Scott, you know, very animated, very high energy, all that. Coach Drew's a little more low key. But when you talk about high character people, there aren't many in the business anywhere near those two in that regard. So again, that's what really just made me so excited for this opportunity to come about.
I had somebody tell me this, that you, Steve Henson at Oklahoma, was what John Jacobs was at Baylor when it comes to guard play and offense. Is that a fair description?
Well, you know, everybody I say that not everybody does. We got some guys on the staff that are chomping at the bit. We want to put some defensive drills in today. People love tinkering with the offense, and I do too. Yeah, I learned a lot from Coach Kruger in that regard, watching him operate and tinker with things offensively. It was kind of fascinating sitting in those meetings. And one of my best friends was on his staff for years and years and years. He felt like there was often times when we were in the room that maybe he and I were talking about things just so eye to eye on the same level, on the same page with everything. So I try to soak in those things. Yeah, I enjoy that part of the game. Spend a lot of time working with the guards. There was a stretch where I intentionally asked if I could work more with the big guys just to help myself grow as an assistant coach years ago. I wanted to be able to, check all those boxes. But I spent a lot of times with guards. We had great guards. All the stops we were at over the years, we had really good guard play, which is why we won a lot of ball games at all those stops. It's just so important at every level. You've got to have terrific guard play. And I do enjoy working with those guys. Trying to help them improve and think like a point. It's hard to convert guys, but some guys, that's the case. They come in and they've got the talent, but maybe not the vision, maybe not the leadership required to play the position. So, those are areas I really enjoy.
You mentioned being able to teach, like you can't sometimes teach somebody how to think like a point or be a point guard. Is that maybe the only position that works with? Because you do have so many different responsibilities than the other four on the floor?
I think it's the hardest position to convert to. You can slide over the other direction. You can help guys change, but the point guard's tough. I mean, there's a lot on their plate. They've got to understand time and score. They've got to understand who's got the hot hand. They got to understand the flow of the game. And certain guys have the ball handling ability or the scoring ability. The ability to beat people off the dribble, but there's a lot more that goes into it than that. And I think a lot of high school kids, when they make that adjustment coming into college, they realize that there's just so much more on their plate. So it's fun to take a talented guy and help him grow in that regard. Obviously we've got some guys in this program. We'll have some guards with unbelievable Division I experience. And we'll have a high school kid coming in that's just incredibly talented. So it'll be fun to help those two, and then hopefully they help each other.
Somebody asked me to follow up with the decathlete comment that I made earlier. What was your most what of the events in the decathlete was where you scored your most points?
I kind of went about it the opposite way of the guys that are really good at it. There's 10 events. Speed is important. Let's not mistake for that. But I was growing up, was around track my entire life. I grew up in a relatively small town in Kansas, but we all experimented with it like at 8 or 9 years old, and I just fell in love with it. There was a small college right outside just 100 yards outside my back door. There was a McPherson College was there, and I would spend hours every day over there just messing around, long jumping, high jumping. So I learned to. I was a very good high jumper at an early age, and I got to junior high and started pole vaulting and throwing the javelin. So if you can pole vault and high jump and throw the discus and javelin, then you're off to a pretty good start. So that's kind of how my love for it came about. I was a 7-foot high jumper, so that was probably my best event. And as a javelin, I was a state champion in the javelin, so I scored a lot of points in those. Usually the high jump, pole vault, javelin, 1500. All the throws, I was pretty good. I'd fall so far behind in the 100 long jump, I was playing catch the whole time. Hey, I was short, but I was slow, So.
Yeah, they all count, though. I mean, that's why there's 10 of them.
That's exactly right. But, when I got into college, the speed events just caught up with me. I just couldn't overcome the lack of speed.
Former Kansas State Wildcat with us, Steve Henson, now part of Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, played in the NBA, Hawks and the Bucks and the Charlotte Hornets, coached in the NBA too. What was, Pistons, you were part of the Blazers. What was the most interesting as a player or a coach in the NBA?
Well, first thing, not exactly what you're asking, but right out of the gates, when you anytime you move from one level to the next, you just notice the size and the quickness. There's a lane there. You think you can get in that lane and it closes down quicker. There's a passing lane. You pass it and the guy deflects it. The guys are just bigger and faster and better, period. I bounced, you just rattled off a whole bunch of teams. And when I was playing in the NBA, it would have been ideal, I thought at the time, to to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. I was drafted in the second round by the Bucks. Loved it there. Wish I could have played my whole career there. I mean, that's what you want generally, is to not bounce around a ton. But looking back now, I'm so grateful that happened, because it gave me the opportunity to experience. I got to play with a bunch of Hall of Famers. I got to play with Jack Stickman, Moses Malone in Milwaukee, Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta, and Grant Hill in Detroit, and Clyde Drexler in Portland, and it kind of goes on and on. So from that standpoint, I'm glad I bounced around. And then also just to learn from different staffs. I went to training camp one year with Don Nelson. I went to a summer league with Pat Riley. I played for Del Harris. went to training camp with Lenny Wilkins. So I just, again, tried to take bits and pieces from each one of those guys and then store it in my memory banks or put it down on paper, things that I could draw on years later. We still, up until last year when I was coaching at UTSA, we still used a numbering system that was based off of something I learned from Del Harris in 1990, my rookie year in the NBA. So just try to draw on all those experiences. Most of them were the positives, but there were a few things that I witnessed over the years that's okay. I definitely don't want to do it that way. You can learn from that as well. But really grateful now that I did have the opportunity to bounce around. I got to experience playing in the CBA, which is similar to the G League now. Played internationally in Italy and Greece, and just hopefully that gives me a perspective from the player's point of view, and again, learned so much from all those different styles.
So you were a Hawk so that means you played with Dominique Wilkins, right?
Correct.
What was that like? I mean, I don't know. Like, I could ask a ton of questions. I'll just simplify it. What was it like to be on the court with a guy who could do what he did?
Oh, it was amazing. It's funny because Dominique. You think of the human highlight reel. I mean, he scored thousands and thousands of. He was like a little kid almost. It was just Dominique. When he's your teammate, you look at him a little bit differently. But yeah, you can easily get caught. And I spent a lot of time on the bench. Let's not mistake it. I spent more time watching from the bench than I did on the court. But in Atlanta, I was in the rotation every night. I backed up Mookie Blaylock, and so I played every single night. But you could get caught. You could get caught watching. When you're on the court with him too, because he was going to do some amazing things there. So he just had an unbelievable feel for making buckets and making exciting buckets night in, night out.
Steve Henson is now on Scott Drew's staff at Baylor, hired. The staff has been filled out and completed. I had Kevin Gall, who's a part of Baylor Athletics Senior Administration, sent me a note or two. Tim Maloney, who's like an unbelievable basketball historian. I was on the phone with him last night and have talked to him a couple of times. But Brett Ingram, media relations, vice president media relations at Baylor, and handles football, but he handled basketball. He was at UTSA when you were there. He made the comment about how it was great that you are everything everyone's been saying about you. And have you seen Brent yet since you've been on campus?
I have. And, honestly, that's really how all this started. I spent some time with Brent when he was over at UTSA. He came over here, and he got to know me a little bit in the brief time he was there, and he came over here. And he was the one that reached out and really encouraged me to reach out to Coach Drew. And that's kind of how we got this thing started. And I've known, Kevin Gall, of course, for a long time as well. And to have some of those people talking, to both sides, it just sounded like it made a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. And there's a little bit of staff turnover, and just kept telling Coach Drew, hey, I've been a head coach the last 8 years. He has not had much staff turnover. It's been
Absolutely.
terrific. When you do well, your assistants are going to have opportunities to move on, and every head coach wants that. And Coach Drew's got an unbelievable coaching tree all across the country right now. But he had a little bit more turnover this spring than usual, and I went through the same thing a year ago. So I felt like maybe I could come in here with a little different perspective. I'm going to understand some of the things that he might be feeling, and maybe I can address those from a little different point of view. But ultimately, I think it came down to just being on the same page culturally, spiritually. Obviously, for me, this was an unbelievable opportunity. Did not want to sit out a year. I wanted to jump right back in. And, man, it's like a home run. Come to Baylor where we're going to be competing for a national championship we're going to do things right. We're going to look forward to seeing each other every single day, and it's just a very special place.
So, Steve, I know you were at UTSA, and it didn't always go well. And they're brand new. Jeff Traylor's football. I've known Jeff forever. We all have. He was on the show earlier this week, and what they've done. What did you learn about yourself as a head coach at UTSA? What do you take out of all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was looking back on it. We understand a couple of things that kept us from turning the corner. We took a program that was at the bottom, and we made huge strides in the early years. Year one was one of the most rewarding years we had. We overachieved, and then we brought in a bunch of talent. Had the chance to coach the second highest scoring duo in NCAA history. Had two little guards in the program for 4 years that were incredible, Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace, and finished tied for second in the league one year, and just couldn't quite get over the hump there. But looking back, don't have many regrets. My staff was great. They stayed loyal to me. We fought and competed all the way till the end. So, I think there's some things I feel like I'm at a point now where I'm going to come into this with a little more experience from the head coach seat, but with the hunger, just like I had 8 or 9 years ago when I was an assistant in Oklahoma. My objective when I was at Oklahoma was to help Coach Kruger on a daily basis, be the best assistant coach I could be. I've always been approached thing with the worker's mentality. I'm just going to work and work and work, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to help Coach Drew, help the other assistants, help the younger assistants, help us do things the right way off the court and help us win ball games. That's my objective every day, and I found some areas that I think I can continue to grow with.
Well, here's the way I want to close this out, if you don't mind. And this is one of the other things that was said about you. And Coach Drew's had he's got a spider web, and what the coaching tree is like is amazing. But also, he has had his inner circle.
Yes.
One of the things that was said, and that's why you're hiring, it says a lot about you. No enemies, with great respect from everyone. When I say that to you, what does that mean to you?
Well, I just learned behavior. That goes back to what I witnessed. My dad was a legendary high school coach in Kansas, Hall of Fame high school coach. He treated people the right way. I signed to play for Coach Kruger, and then just watched him, for all those years. You can do things the right way and have a lot of success, and that's just the route I decided to go. There's a lot of hate in this world. There's a lot of anger, and those are hate's just an ugly word. So I just try to treat people with respect. The basketball world is small. Things come around. Things come full circle, So you're much better off just treating people with love and kindness and helping people out because, A, it's the right thing to do, and B, can come back around in a positive way when you least expect it.
Steve, thank you very much. Congratulations on the opportunity. Welcome to Waco. We'll see you down the road. We appreciate your time. Heard so many great things about you, and enjoy what you get now around that program and what you bring to the program too. Have a great day.
Well, thank you so much. I don't take this for granted. It's an unbelievable opportunity. I look forward to visiting with you guys some more and having a great time here at Baylor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve Henson, now part of the Baylor men's basketball staff, right there with